There's a moment most of us have experienced, but rarely talk about. You pick up a device, a laptop, a drill, a phone, and it just stops. And almost instantly, without even thinking, you've already decided it's dead. Time to replace it. But what if that decision, the one that feels so automatic, is based on something that isn't actually true? Most people assume that when a device stops working, the device itself has failed. The screen, the processor, the motor, something essential, must be broken. It's a logical assumption. After all, why else would it stop? But here's what almost nobody considers. In the vast majority of cases, the device isn't broken at all. The problem is something much smaller. Something that could be fixed in minutes, if you knew what to look for. Let me take you back to an ordinary workday that changed how I see everything. I was working at one of the largest electronics recycling facilities in the country. Every single day, trucks would arrive with literal tons of devices. Laptops, phones, power tools, tablets. Mountains of them. In my early years there, it made sense. Most of what came in was genuinely destroyed. Cracked motherboards, shattered screens, fried circuits. These were devices that had reached the end of their functional lives. But somewhere along the way, something changed. The devices started arriving in better condition, cleaner, newer. Some still had protective film on the screens. And yet they were all labeled the same way, junk. One afternoon, out of pure curiosity, I pulled a laptop from the pile. It looked almost new. No visible damage. I plugged it in just to see what would happen. It booted up perfectly. The screen lit up. The operating system loaded. Everything worked. Except for one thing. The battery indicator showed 0%. And when I unplugged the power cord, it shut off immediately. The battery was dead. But the laptop? The laptop was fine. I tested another one. Same result. Then another. And another. Out of 20 laptops I tested that day, 18 of them worked perfectly when plugged in. The only issue was the battery. This is where most people stop thinking, because when a laptop won't turn on, we don't ask ourselves, is it the battery or the device? We just assume the whole thing is done. And that assumption costs us financially, emotionally, and practically. Here's what actually happens. A battery is made up of individual cells. These cells store and release energy. Over time, through repeated charging cycles, those cells degrade. They lose capacity. Eventually, they can't hold a charge at all. But the degradation of those cells has nothing to do with the screen, the keyboard, the processor, or any other component. Those parts can still function for years, sometimes a decade or more, yet because the battery is often built into the device, and because most people don't know how to access it or test it separately, the entire device gets treated as if it's beyond repair. And here's the part that usually gets missed. This isn't an accident. Manufacturers design products with batteries that are difficult, sometimes nearly impossible to replace. They use proprietary screws, glued-in components, and non-standard connectors, not because it makes the product better, but because it ensures you'll buy a new one when the battery fails. It's not a flaw in the design. It's a feature of the business model. Now, most people respond to this in one of two ways. The first group tries to fight it. They take their device to a repair shop, only to be told that the battery replacement costs almost as much as buying a new device. Or they're told the battery isn't available anymore, or that it's not worth it. So they give up and buy new. The second group just accepts it. They assume this is how things are supposed to work. Devices are meant to be temporary. Planned obsolescence is just the cost of living in a modern world. Both responses make sense. But both overlook something important. There's a third option. One that doesn't require expensive repair shops, specialized tools, or technical expertise. You can learn to assess and address battery issues yourself. Not by becoming an engineer. Not by taking apart complex electronics with a soldering iron, but by understanding a few basic principles about how batteries degrade, how to test them, and in many cases, how to restore their function. This isn't about becoming a technician. It's about shifting the way you think about failure, because once you understand that the battery is the weak link, not the device, you stop seeing broken electronics as broken. You start seeing them as devices with a single failing component. And that changes everything. It changes how you evaluate whether something is worth keeping. It changes how much money you spend on replacements. And it changes your relationship with the technology you depend on every day. The indirect benefit isn't just financial, though the savings add up quickly. It's psychological. When you know that a dead device might not actually be dead, you stop feeling powerless. You stop being at the mercy of manufacturers who profit from your confusion. You regain a sense of control. And that sense of control, quiet, practical, unshowy, is something most people didn't even realize they lost until they got it back. If you've ever felt frustrated watching something you paid good money for become useless far too soon, you're not imagining it. It's real, and it's designed to happen, but it doesn't have to. The next time something stops working, pause before you throw it away. Ask yourself, is it really broken? Or is it just the battery? That one question could save you hundreds of dollars. And more importantly, it could change how you see the devices in your life. Because most of the time, they're not dead. They're just waiting for you to understand what went wrong.